The Mavericks get dominated at home by the Cleveland Cavaliers. Quentin Grimes had a big night, though. We'll break it all down here. Coming up next on the DLLS Mavs postgame show. Hey, what's up, DLLS Mavs Nation? It's your man, Kevin Gray, alongside Mavericks analyst Bobby Carella. We are DLLS Mavs, your favorite guys covering your favorite team, win or loss every single game night here on DLLS Sports. At Kevin Gray Sports, at Bobby Carella. We'll be joined by our Mavericks beat writer, Tim Cato, live from the American Airlines Center a little bit later on in our show, and our national NBA insider, Mark Stein, at The Steinline. You can find him there on X. The Mavericks fall, unfortunately, tonight at home to the Cleveland Cavaliers, 134-122. The Mavericks losing their fourth consecutive game and, unfortunately, 5 of their last 6 as Evan Mobley dominates for the Cleveland Cavaliers, leading 7 Cavs in double figures with 34 points, 10 rebounds, and 2 blocks for Cleveland tonight. We really appreciate all of you joining us here on DLLS Sports. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to our channel while you are here. You can also download and subscribe to the podcast wherever you get your podcasts for free. We'll break everything down here over the course of the next hour. Let us know how you're feeling about what happened in tonight's game. Quentin Grimes had a big night for the Dallas Mavericks. He had 26 points, including in what was 20 points in a big third quarter for him. I already see Christian in the chat. I also see Ronald in here as well. And a night, Bobby, where the outcome never felt in doubt. The Cavaliers used a big run at the end of the first quarter to really turn things around. But there was some positives from tonight's game, despite the fact that the Mavericks did not have Kyrie Irving due to illness in this game, as the Mavericks unfortunately fall by 12 to Cleveland tonight.
Yeah, I mean, nothing really surprised me. Cleveland is really, really, really good, and obviously, you know, without Kyrie and Luka, I mean, it was just gonna be. It's so hard to. Cleveland is the number 1 offense in the league, and I think right now their offensive rating would be the highest of all time, or maybe the second highest of all time. So, like, you have to score so well or play incredible defense to keep up with them. And the Mavs defense hasn't been good lately. And obviously, you know, without Luka and Kyrie, it's just going to be tough to match them on offense. So, yeah, I mean, I figured that they'd struggle tonight. I figured that they would lose, and they did. Nothing really to get mad about. It just kind of is what it is. Cleveland is way better than the Mavs right now. They're really good. I mean, I don't know if they're beating Boston in a series, but I bet they could beat the Knicks in a series. Like, they're really, really good.
Yeah, Cleveland just has a lot of balance, and you saw it tonight, whether it was a shot maker from outside. I mean, a guy like George Niang had double digits off the bench for them, knocking down threes. The Cavaliers, now with the Knicks losing tonight on the road to the Oklahoma City Thunder, they now own the longest winning streak in the Eastern Conference. With tonight's win, the Cavs have now won 9 straight games. In fact, they improved to 10-0 this season against Western Conference teams. The Mavericks, though, had 6 guys in double figures tonight, as we mentioned, led by Quentin Grimes. He had 26 points, including 20 points of his own in that third quarter. In fact, he scored or assisted on 28 of the 32 points that the Mavericks scored in that third period. Jaden Hardy had 17 points in this game. Unfortunately, turnovers, especially in the first half, were a problem for Dallas. Eventually, overall, the Cavaliers had 23 points on what was 12 Mavericks turnovers. Cavaliers wound up shooting 53% from the field and 37.5% from the three-point line. But, Bobby, in that first half, the Mavericks, again, continuing to show no matter who is or who isn't on the floor, this team is going to continue to compete. As we mentioned, the outcome not necessarily in doubt, but the Mavericks continuously kept themselves in the game, particularly in that third quarter where Quentin Grimes was able to get to the basket quite a bit, going 7 of 9 in that third period there. Really kept them somewhat tethered to the Cavaliers in this game, particularly in that third quarter there. Kind of.
Yeah, I mean, kind of is. That's doing a lot of the heavy lifting there. That's doing a lot of the heavy lifting. But yeah, I mean, you know, Grimes plays hard, man. I thought. Do you want me to save the Dinwiddie thing for the next segment? I don't.
No, we can get into it right now. Yeah.
Okay. So Dinwiddie started the game, and he's been starting lately without Luka, and he's generally been their starter without Luka or Kyrie. And without both of them, it's like, all right, you kind of have to. You got to start somebody, so it was Dinwiddie. Mavs come out of halftime with Dinwiddie coming off the bench. It was Grimes and I believe Hardy. To start the third quarter.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was the right move. I think those two guys are just better than Dinwiddie right now. And I'm not doing this like I'm an anti-Dinwiddie guy. I think everybody knows it if you've watched the pod or listened to the pod or whatever. But Grimes and Hardy are just so much quicker. They're a lot more dynamic. They're a lot more of a threat with the ball in their hands going toward the basket. And they're better passers than Dinwiddie. Like just everything. You know, Hardy came in the game and all of a sudden Lively and Gafford were getting lobs. Grimes came in the game and all of a sudden the Mavs were getting a lot of stuff going toward the rim. Like in the third quarter alone, the Mavs had 20 points in the paint. In the fourth quarter, the Mavs had 18 points in the paint. In the first half total, they had 20 points in the paint. So there was a lot more shots coming at the rim, a lot more action going toward the rim. And, you know, Dinwiddie at this point in his career is, 33 or something, had a lot of surgeries, had a lot of injuries. He just doesn't have that burst or that explosiveness going toward the basket to finish over taller guys. And Mobley and Allen have so much length. So you really need guys that can create some separation or get going downhill with enough momentum to attract those big guys' attention so that they can then drop off a pass to the big for a dunk. And the Mavs offense was just running a lot smoother whenever it was those two guys, or even when Brandon Williams got in the game. I thought Williams was pretty good tonight.
I thought Brandon Williams played very well tonight.
Yeah, and I mean, hopefully, you know, with them not playing again until Monday, right? Monday at Memphis.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Hopefully Kyrie's good by then. We'll see. I don't know. Najee missed like a month and a half of the illness. Najee will be back. So they'll have more options and more guys that can make plays. But I would like to see more Hardy minutes. I thought he was good against Houston, even though the rest of the team and even Hardy for part of that game kind of stunk it up. But I thought Hardy had a good game against Houston. I thought he had another really good game tonight. Grimes obviously was great too. And here's kind of the crucial point about Dinwiddie. So the NBA tracks drives to the rim and what you shoot on drives to the rim. This year, for example, Luka shooting 60% on shots he takes, 6.8 shots per game coming off drives, which actually for him is a little lower than we're used to. Najee, 56.6. Kyrie, 53. Hardy, 51. Even Grimes, 45. Dinwiddie, just 37% on field goal attempts coming from drives, and he gets only 1.4 free throw attempts per drive too, so it's not like he's just getting fouled a lot. 1.4 free throw attempts per game, on 6 drives, more than 6 drives. So it's been rough for him. And, you know, I don't want to be too hard on him. He's an aging player that's on a veteran minimum. Like, the Mavs are asking him to do a lot right now, and I frankly, I don't think his body can handle it. I don't think that he can be a 32-minute per game player for a month, and the Mavs aren't going to have Luka for a month.
Yeah.
So, you know, and that's even if Kyrie is playing. You still need another starting guard or a guy in relief, and so it's really, really important for the Mavs, if you're trying to stay afloat, if you really want to make the playoffs, right? You need Grimes, you need Hardy to play really well. You need them to be playing well enough to deserve the minutes over Dinwiddie and to earn them over Dinwiddie. They did tonight. If they can do this more often and you get Kyrie back, then all of a sudden, yeah, you can get some wins without Luka. But it's really, really important that Hardy stays aggressive the way he was tonight. Otherwise, their offense is going to continue looking a little bunky for long stretches of games.
Jaden Hardy tonight in nearly 25 minutes of play went 6 of 11 from the field, had 17 points, also had 3 assists in the game as well. PJ Washington was in double figures. He had 15. There was question or not whether he was going to play tonight, as he has been dealing with the right knee sprain. He was able to play. Klay Thompson also had 16 in this game, going 4 of 10 from the three-point line. Overall, the Mavericks shot just 27%, though, from the three-point line tonight and 43% overall from the field. They did go 24 of 30 from the free throw line tonight, so got to the free throw line plenty of times in this game and actually out-rebounded the Cleveland Cavaliers in this game 53-46, but it was simply too much, especially in that second quarter where Evan Mobley decided to take over the game. He had 18 of his 34 points in that second period, finishing the game 14 of 21 overall, as we mentioned, with the 34 points and 10 rebounds in this game. Just too many points in the paint, Bobby, for this Cleveland Cavaliers team that got a lot of things at the rim, whether it was Mobley, whether it was Jared Allen, who actually was in foul trouble quite a bit in this game. But at the same time, it was a lot of easy stuff at the rim, and Mobley was the catalyst for that for Cleveland as he scored those 34 points in just 29 minutes of action tonight for Cleveland.
34 of 51 on shots inside the lane for Cleveland tonight. That's a lot of points in the paint, but I mean, what can Mance do against such reckless hate? Like, a trademark of Kenny Atkinson coach teams is that these guys are going to get going downhill. Everybody's going to drive. Everybody's going to attack. And, you know, they're really good at it. They have a lot of skill. They have a lot of good finishing. They have a lot of good passing and good passers and a lot of shooting too. It's good that they saw this tonight because Memphis is not the same caliber of team, especially without Ja as Cleveland is, but they play that same kind of way where it's one guy driving, kick out, drive, respace, drive, kick out, respace, drive, kick out, respace, drive. Like, they do this. There's this 3 or 4 thrusts per possession, and you have to be able to scramble and rotate. And that's another area where I thought Dinwiddie in particular struggled tonight. You know, he was getting beat off the bounce by a lot of guys, losing guys. Hardy was getting lost on a lot of switches. You know, and Hardy isn't a really good communicator on defense. Dinwiddie isn't. A lot of the Mavs guards aren't. Even like Kyrie is not a very good communicator on defense. But whenever there's all of that driving and then kick out and then respacing to where you're like filling the corner after the next guy drives, there's going to be a lot of like shuffling, just a lot of like 3 guys rotating in circles. And you have to be able to communicate on who you're guarding. Clay got beat a couple times on that. The Mavs are getting beat backdoor on inbounds passes. Like, just not enough communicating. And I don't think they were going to win the game if they communicated great, but it certainly made it look a lot harder than it was. But going back to the Mavs offensive rebounds, 21 offensive rebounds, Cleveland a bottom half defensive rebound team this year, a bottom 5 offensive rebounding team this year, which is surprising given their size. But the Mavs, on those 21 offensive rebounds, they got 20 second chance field goal attempts. They only made 7 of them.
Oh, boy.
And when they're at their best, so many of those offensive rebounds are big comes down, kicks it out to the 3-point line, boom, it's 3 points. But tonight, you know, PJ 1 of 7, Grimes 1 of 5, Dinwiddie 0 of 3, Maxey 0 for 3. Markieff Morris got in there. He was 1 for 4. So even a lot of those second chances were threes that missed, or, you know, guys going up, coming down with it, going back up again and getting blocked or whatever. So, you know, they had a lot of chances. They had a lot of bites at the apple. They just couldn't take advantage of it.
Yeah, you got to be able to take advantage of second chance opportunities when you have them, because Cleveland doesn't miss a lot of shots. They were the number 1 field goal shooting team in the league, number 1 3-point shooting team in the league as well. So when you have chances to be able to steal some points, you got to be able to take advantage of that. And unfortunately, the Mavericks were simply not able to do so. I mean, Cleveland was extremely efficient, especially in the 2-point field goal range, going 37 of 58 on 2-point field goals. That's a near 64% clip on 2-point field goals tonight. Mavericks themselves were 31 of 56 at a 55% clip there. But as deep as this team is in terms of Cleveland, you give credit to the Mavericks for continuously fighting. Obviously, with the amount of adversity that they were dealing with coming into this game, we continue to find that this Mavericks team is not going to give up on games. It's just, unfortunately, and I thought it was mentioned during the broadcast as well, you just simply don't have the bodies right now to do the kind of competing consistently night in and night out that you want to, given what this team believes that they're capable of. And that's just, unfortunately, the way that the ball is bounced right now, whether it be injuries, whether it be illness. Obviously, Najee Marshall, who's going to be coming back for the game on Monday, he is going to be a big help for this team as well. So definitely glad that the suspension for him is over with. Another guy that can provide some ball handling, some defense, and some added juice as well on both ends of the floor. Najee Marshall will be a welcome sign of return on Monday for Dallas.
Need guys. Need players. Need players. Duty Bound Dead says in the chat, I found a shiny Scyther in Pokemon Platinum while watching the game, so that's a positive right there. Dude, hell yeah. First off, was that a full odd shiny, or were you chaining? Secondly, are you able to transfer it to a Switch or anything, or is it going to be stuck in that game? I hope you're able to transfer it. Shiny Scizor is kind of a weird looking one, but I don't actually know off the top of my head what Shiny Scyther looks like. Ooh, Shiny Scyther, okay. Okay. It kind of looks the same, but still, that's pretty sweet, man. Congratulations.
What other positives did you find from this game as well?
Well, you know, Kevin, a full odd shiny in the Pokemon universe is 1 in 8,192. It's really, really unlikely to find a full odd shiny.
Okay.
But in Pokemon Platinum, the Gen 4 games did create a way that you could it's not cheating, it's like within the rules, but it does expedite the shiny hunting process a little bit, but it's very tough.
That's your clip for the night, Tanner. You're welcome.
I'm happy to talk more about it in the next segment.
You well versed when it comes to Pokemon and the intricacies.
Poker radar. Okay, there you go. Hey, smart man.
Let's take our first break here on the DLLS Mavs postgame show. More Pokemon strategy with Bobby Curla coming up next as well. Plus, unfortunately, how the Mavericks fell tonight to the Cleveland Cavaliers. And a little bit later on, we'll have our Mavericks beat writer Tim Cato joining us live from the American Airlines Center. All that and more coming up next year on the DLLS Mavs postgame show.
So, this is late in the game, Kevin.
Yeah.
Jared Allen throws down a monster dunk to put the Cavs up 19 or something.
Yeah, that's right.
And the Mavs call a timeout. And I knew in that moment my night was ruined. Jared Allen was one rebound away from a double-double, and my sleeper play would have hit. I would have my $5 play would have won me, I think, $26 or something.
Mm-hmm.
I got Jaden Hardy more than 2.5 rebounds. I got Darius Garland more than 23.5 points plus assists. I did not get Jarrett Allen double-double. Very, very sad. But if you think you're a ball knower, if you got more ball knowledge than me, you can put it to the test by picking whether your favorite or least favorite players will have more or less than their projected stats each week. If you think you have what it takes, new users can download the Sleeper app and use the code DLLS Mavs to get $55 in free entries. When you place a $5 contest, apply it to any contest. Doesn't have to be your first. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Currently operational in over 25 states. Check out Sleeper today.
With that money you win, you can buy yourself some beautiful glasses from Shady Rays. Get ready for the season ahead with quality shades built to last. Our friends at Shady Rays have you covered with premium polarized shades that won't break the bank. Shady Rays is an independent sunglasses company offering a world-class product rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. Their shades have durable frames and crystal clear optics, making them the perfect choice for all of your outdoor adventures. They probably have a style in your favorite team as well. Make sure that when you have an opportunity, go to Shady Rays, find yourself that perfect pair of sunglasses. I've got some. Definitely helps me out, obviously, with my 4 eyes that I have. Shady Rays is able to help me block out the sun and everything else to be able to have my best look in a great style as well. So exclusively for our listeners here at DLLS Sports, Shady Rays is giving out their best deal of the season. Head to shadyrays.com and use code DLLS for 35% off polarized sunglasses. Try yours for yourself. The shades rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. Shout out to Shady Rays. As we continue here on the DLLS Mavs postgame show, the Mavericks unfortunately fall 134-122 at home to the Cleveland Cavaliers. The Mavericks have now lost 5 of their last 6 games, fall to now 7-6, unfortunately, without Luka Doncic. Quentin Grimes, though, big night for him with 26 points, 20 of which coming in that third quarter to try to keep the Mavericks a little bit closer throughout this game, but unfortunately a little too late. Evan Mobley was absolutely spectacular for the Cleveland Cavaliers, which is funny because they really didn't even need Donovan Mitchell all that much tonight. That's how balanced the Cleveland Cavaliers were based off of what they had.
Mobley is so good. Oh, my God.
Yeah.
So, so he was scoring stuff around the rim. He was scoring stuff on the perimeter, face-up, three-pointer, mid-range, everything. But what was really, really impressive to me is his footwork, like around the basket.
Mm-hmm.
Like he was scoring in
the soft touch, too, around the rim.
Yeah, it's a really soft touch, but he was scoring in the post, but it wasn't like – okay, so like Alperen Şengün, for example, he's the kind of guy that's going to be like, all right, Santa slay and bring the gifts. And he's going to back you down, use his butt as a weapon.
Wow.
But Mobley is quick footwork. He's making quick moves. And that was like, it was just way too much for Gafford and for Lively. Like they just could not keep up with it, you know?
Yeah.
It's one thing if it's like there's a rhythm to it. It's like dribble, bang, dribble, bang, dribble, bang, dribble, bang, and you can kind of like brace yourself. But he was like up under fake spin, like he was, and so quick. It looks
very
like
smooth.
he's playing like he's like 28 years old, but he's what, like 22 or something. Like it's just he's unbelievable. He's so good.
He's got an old man game with a new man game vibe to him, if you will, because he can shoot the 3 now. Obviously, could play in the post. He had a volleyball spike for a block in the game as well. Mobley was doing it all and showing why the Cavaliers right now are the best team in the Eastern Conference, and outside of the Oklahoma City Thunder, the best team in the NBA. Speaking of the Thunder, by the way, they won their 14th straight game tonight as they beat the New York Knicks, who had won their previous 9 straight games. But let's get to the turning point of what was tonight's game at the American Airlines Center, as the Mavericks, of course, coming into tonight's game shorthanded. No Kyrie Irving, who was ruled out earlier today with an illness. PJ Washington was able to play. So was Maxi Kleber, who's dealing with a right oblique strain. But the Mavericks were able to compete for the most part in that first quarter. But unfortunately, turnovers started to do them in the final 3:18. In fact, not only the turnovers where they had 3 of them, the Mavericks missed their final 7 shots of the first quarter, which led to what would be a 15-0 run by the Cleveland Cavaliers in the final 3:18 of the first period to take what was a 32-21 lead at the end of one. That carried over, unfortunately, into the second quarter as well, where overall it became what would be a 20-0 run by Cleveland as they led 37-21 with just under 11 minutes left in that second quarter. And Bobby, that pretty much was the game there. You got to play near perfect basketball. The margin for error for this team right now is slim to none with the amount of guys that are missing. And when you're playing one of the best teams in the NBA, not only have to make shots, but you've got to protect the basketball. And during that stretch there, in that 4 or 5 minute stretch where the Cavaliers were able to make that 20-0 run, the Mavericks made too many mistakes and the game got away from them during that portion of the game there.
Yeah, again, this is the number 1 offense in the league, and I don't know if they're the number 1 offense ever, but the season's only halfway over, so we're not going to anoint them. But
I mean, the offensive rating is near 122.
Yeah, no, it's absurd. But
yeah.
You know, Dinwiddie, Thompson, PJ, they were combined 11 of 38. Like, that's just not good. It's not good enough to keep up with those guys. You know, and if they would have been 19 of 38, that might not have been enough either. So again, this isn't like you guys suck and should feel bad. It's just like, man, Cleveland is really good. And again, you know, Clay is getting up there. Dinwiddie is getting up there. Dinwiddie especially is not being paid to be the guy that's running the show. Clay is not being paid to be the number 1 offense or the number 1 option. And PJ definitely is not being paid to be the number 1 or number 2 or even number 3 option. And so, you know, those guys were all having to perform above what is expected of them on a nightly basis. And they weren't up to the task. You know, hopefully they can be, but that's where you need Kyrie back so badly, because then you don't need them to be the 1, 2, and 3. They can be the 2, 3, and 4, or the 3, 4, and 5, or the 4, 5, and 6, because you're getting Najee back, and because, you know, maybe Hardy's going to play better, maybe Grimes found something. So, you know, it's just PJ going 6 for 18 just sucks. It sucks.
Yeah, and you made a great point there when it comes to the guys who are shifting up in terms of their roles on this team, because when you've got guys that are out, other guys have got to be able to step in and to be able to play, not necessarily a little bit above their head, but they've got to play up to their capability, and then everyone be on the same page on both the offensive and defensive end. And we talked about the schedule coming into tonight's game. They've got the 4th hardest remaining schedule for the remainder of the season. They got the 9th toughest schedule in the month of January, where their opponent's winning percentage is .523. This is not necessarily going to end in terms of the quality of opponent that you're going to be seeing here over the next few weeks. And for the Mavericks, obviously, we thought maybe coming into this game, if Kyrie Irving was going to be available, maybe you could get some home cooking going, where they were 4-2 in their last 6 games at home. But unfortunately, they ran into a buzzsaw, which is the Cleveland Cavaliers. And Bobby, as we start kind of not just thinking about this game, but over the next couple of weeks here, where they've got games against the Denver Nuggets a couple of times. They've got the Los Angeles Lakers coming up next week, along with the Memphis Grizzlies, the Oklahoma City Thunder you'll see here in the next couple of weeks as well. What has to change for them, aside for just getting more bodies back, to be able to find themselves trying to win a few of these games? Because things, it feels like, could start slipping away rather quickly, given what the kind of schedule that they're playing and the teams that they're going to be seeing here over the next couple of weeks. Or is there anything that can happen based off of who they have here?
No. I mean, they need to be healthy.
Yeah.
This team, like, the thing that's so great about this year's team is that it's good enough to win a couple games without Luka against teams that they would definitely beat with Luka. If the Mavs are totally healthy, they still might not win this game. Maybe they do, but the odds are that, you know, Cleveland's really good. They might not. They didn't have Luka. They also didn't have Kyrie. You're not going to win probably a single game without those 2 guys all season. It doesn't matter who you're playing. So they need Kyrie back. They need Kyrie back real bad, and they need Luka back real bad. But they need Kyrie back even worse, because Kyrie's supposed to be the guy that's going to hold this thing over while Luka's gone. So yeah, I mean, no, you need them. You need them real bad. The good news, though, is that coming into this game, I think they had the 4th toughest remaining strength of schedule.
Mm-hmm.
After getting one Cleveland game out of the way, they're all the way down to 6th toughest. So they're zooming down the leaderboards.
Knocking them off already.
It's great. And like this time 2 weeks from now, they'll be even lower because they'll play OKC once or twice. So they'll get a Memphis game out of the way. The Mavs have, unfortunately, during the time Luka's out, okay, they have one, not counting tonight, they have 1, 2, 3, 4 of their toughest remaining games of the whole season. 4 of their sorry, I'm trying to do some math real quick. 4 of their 9 toughest remaining games of the season in terms of opponent win percentage between now and when Luka's projected to come back at the earliest. And they also just played Cleveland tonight, which is another one of them, and Houston the other day, which is another one of them. So that's 6 of their 11 toughest games remaining all season that they will play while Luka's out. And that's subject to change if he's out longer because they get Boston again in February. So that could be 7 of their 11 toughest. And then they get Memphis again not long after that. That could be 8.
They see Cleveland a month from today.
That could be 9. Yeah. So like that, this is it. Like, that's why I say nothing effing matters if those guys aren't playing. If Luka and Kyrie are not going to be on the court, the Mavs are not going to win maybe a single game. Definitely not going to win against a really good team like this. Like, it's just not going to happen. And so, you know, and I'm not doing that to maul or to get all sad or whatever. It's like, them's the breaks. That's how it's going to be. So that's why, strategic nights off or whatever are going to be so important for Kyrie while Luke is out, because if you exhaust Kyrie and he misses a month too, then you're probably counting ping pong balls in 5 months. And I know nobody wants to do that, me least of all, because I had to do that a lot at my last job and I hated it. I hated it. I don't care about the draft. So it's just really important to keep those guys as healthy as possible.
I mean, you said it too, because that's another part about this is not only the tough opponents that they have, but trying to save and make sure that Kyrie Irving is as healthy and available as he can be as well once he comes back, because the amount of taxing that's going to be on him to not only run this offense, but be the catalyst and leader for this team while Luka Doncic is out, it's going to put a lot of wear and tear on the 32-year-old who obviously is in his 14th season, in the league. So
it's already happening, dude.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's already happening now. So just think when he does come back and the quality of opponent that you're playing, you're trying to find and steal a win or two here or there to keep yourself afloat. I'm not trying to signal any kind of doom and gloom or anything like that, because there's still a lot of season left and you're eventually going to get Luka Doncic back into the fold. We're just trying to paint the picture of what it is currently right now and what it could start to look like over the next couple of weeks. This league ain't easy, and the teams and opponents that they're going to be playing here over the next couple of weeks, we're going to find out a lot about this team and where they're going to be by the time Luka Doncic comes back and what that means for the remainder of the season, because all the pressure that will be put on this team to make that kind of a run to climb themselves out of the play-in by the time they maybe are in through this stretch is going to be a lot on this team to come out of. But again, unfortunately, that's how the league goes at times. It's about when these injuries happen for certain players and teams. And unfortunately, right now, the Mavericks got the biggest injury to their best player at a stretch where they didn't need to have it at all.
Yeah, their 2 best guys have been out in 2 of their last 3 games. And the watchability is just... but end this on a little bit of an optimistic note. How about that? Their next... Let's see... Their next 7 games at Memphis versus Lakers back-to-back. It's going to be pretty tough, but it's not impossible. Versus Blazers, versus Denver, at Pelicans, second night of back-to-back. Going to be tough, but it's not impossible. Versus Thunder at Charlotte. That's their next 8 games. Sorry. I 100% believe that if the only guys that are out for those games are Luka and Exum, that the Mavs can win 4 of them, if not more.
And 4 of those 5 are at home.
100% believe. Yeah. Like, the Mavs can absolutely beat the Blazers. They can absolutely beat the Hornets. Pelicans going to be tough second night of the back-to-back, but they can win that game. They can split with Denver. They can split the back-to-back. That's 6-2. It's very, very possible. But if Kyrie misses any of those games, they will absolutely lose them. Like, they just will. So, it's just really, really important that when Kyrie falls down, nobody falls on top of him. It's really, really important that no one kicks his calf in practice. It's really important that if
I'm over that bit,
if a ball is going at him too hard, that one of the Mavs teammates is going to have to jump in front of it and take the hit for him. It's really important to not get it in. I wouldn't say to not get any fights. It's really important to not let Yusuf Nurkic offensive foul you. It's just really, really important to stay on the floor. Availability is the most important ability, and we are seeing why. The last 2 weeks, we have seen why.
Let's take our next break here on the DLLS Mavs postgame show. When we come back, Tim Cato, live from the American Airlines Center, will join us to give us his thoughts and perspective and the postgame press conference notes as well. And later on, our national NBA insider, Mark Stein, will join us live on the program as well. All that and more coming up next year on the DLLS Mavs postgame show. But it's bowl season right now in college football. We are down to the semifinals in the college football playoff. Texas, Ohio State, Penn State, and also Notre Dame going to be fighting it out to try to get to a national championship game. But you also got to make sure you go to the East-West Shrine Bowl as well. The America's oldest college football all-star game is being held right here in the heart of Texas on January 30th. Be a part of history in the making at the 100th East-West Shrine Bowl at AT&T Stadium. Since 1925, the game has benefited Shriners Children's in its mission to provide innovative pediatric specialty care to improve and transform the lives of children. So you can see some of the nation's top college football players play in this head-to-head competition ahead of the NFL draft coming up in April. The East-West Shrine Bowl has served as the starting point of many noteworthy NFL careers, including 80 members of the Pro Football Hall of Fame and more than 200 members of the College Football Hall of Fame as well. Tickets start at just $20, so visit shrinebowl.com to buy your tickets to get today. Again, that's shrinebowl.com, just $20 to buy your tickets today.
Kevin, what will you be doing 11 years from now?
Oh, boy, 11 years from now, I will probably be walking or seeing my daughter graduate from high school.
Well, I hope that gymnasium, auditorium, or stadium is lit up by our friends at Saturday Neon.
Oh, that'd be cool. Yeah.
Because their LED signs last up to 100,000 hours, which, folks, that is 11 and a half years.
Oh, okay.
So you'll be enjoying your sign for years to come. Check out their new Essential Collection featuring almost 50 of the biggest schools across the country and counting for only $75, including Texas, Texas A&M, Texas Tech, Oklahoma, and Oklahoma State. Unlike traditional neon, these LED signs won't break the bank or shatter, but still give you that classic uniform glow that you know and love, and they won't break the bank. They're super easy to install using the provided hardware or with 3M command strips, and they're the perfect gift for this upcoming holiday season or for really any holiday season. Head over to SaturdayNeon.com and use code DLLS for 10% off your favorite sign.
As we continue here on the DLLS Mavs postgame show, we really appreciate all of you joining us here on the DLLS Mavs postgame show on DLLS Sports. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe while you're here as well, and do the same for our podcast wherever you get your podcasts for free. As unfortunately, the Mavericks fall 134-122 at home to the Cleveland Cavaliers. Let's go out to the American Airlines Center and bring in our Mavericks beat writer. You can find him on X at Tim_Cato. He is, of course, Tim Cato. As Tim, the Mavericks fall for the fourth straight time and fall to what is a terrific Cavaliers team. Quentin Grimes had a big third quarter, but obviously not enough in this game. Your thoughts on the Mavericks and their performance tonight against Cleveland?
Yeah, I thought Quentin was a lot of fun to watch. I thought I might be running a couple minutes late for the segment for you guys. I was in there talking to Quentin, was talking to the media, so wanted to hear what he had to say, the man of the night, as much as that can be the case in a game like this. But that was a lot of fun in the third quarter. I asked him what it was like to be in the midst of a 20-point quarter when you got the bench jumping up every time, and he was like, "Yeah, it felt pretty cool." I'm just like, okay, yeah, that must be nice to have a 20-point quarter and just be like very nonchalant about it. I don't know if I've ever scored 20 in any pickup game in my entire life. Then again, pickup games only go to 15. So that's probably part of the reason why. Yeah, that's what I have.
NBA players, they're not like us.
They're not. So with Quentin, the one thing I asked, and I thought what J Kidd said about it was interesting, was J Kidd, it was really stark, the difference between Quentin Grimes on the ball in the first half and Quentin Grimes on the ball in the second half. And obviously, he got a few shots to fall, and then all of a sudden he was featured, and he kept scoring, and he kept scoring, and then he was featured more. And I asked him if there was a balance to strike with somebody like Quentin, both for the first half, for the second half, or, really just the season overall. And, J Kid's answer was, as you might expect, but it depends on who's on the court with him. And he said that when Luka and Kyrie are not out there, like, he does want Quentin Grimes to be on the ball a little bit more. He was, I remember thinking in the first half, and I thought that maybe just because Quentin Grimes is like a fun player to watch, maybe I'm being like a little biased about this, but I remember thinking in the first half that, he's been surprisingly inactive. All the shots he took were just shots that fell to him, that were created in the flow of the offense. But the offense isn't going to create shots for the role players necessarily in a game like this, when you're missing, the two lead initiators. And we saw in the second half, especially, in the third quarter specifically, that he actually had a little bit of a, bounce. Like, he was the one guy getting 2 feet in the lane consistently and creating advantages, a season high in assists as well for him at this game. So, Jason Kidd said that, yes, it does depend on who's on the court, but, this is something they see in him. Jason Kidd said he obviously proved it this game. And, he said that it was something that, this is a game that's a good example of why they need to make sure that he's part of the playbook, that he is not just somebody that is always spotting up in the corner, stuff that made sense to me. And, not every night is going to be his night, but that's the case for every role player. Like, Spencer Dinwiddie had some incredible games, just a couple weeks ago. And, clearly it wasn't his night tonight. So, depending on when it is, whose night it is, obviously that is going to dictate who's going to get the featured role and the, the majority of the touches. But I don't think there's any question that Quentin Grimes showed tonight that he is somebody who needs to be on the ball a bit more than, even what we saw in the first half, given how he succeeded with those extra touches as the game went along.
Other takeaways from you from tonight's game, as the Mavericks, without Kyrie Irving tonight, obviously, who was ruled out earlier today with illness. Other takeaways from either what you heard from Jason Kidd and others based off of what you saw tonight.
Yeah, Jason Kidd didn't say too much. He made a joke about how, the when he put the third stringers in, or, second, whatever you want to call them, but, he kind of pulled the plug at 4 minute mark, and then they almost cut it to single digits. He was really hoping for that Markieff Morris 3 to go in to cut it to 7, but it's just it's tough. It's like I said on the pregame, this isn't a game that there's going to be just ample, just tons and tons and tons to take away from. I thought that Derek Lively performed a bit better. That was somebody that we talked about, and just how he's going to go up against a grown man center and Jared Allen. I thought that was more successful this time around than it has been in the past. And, but it wasn't perfect. He wasn't, as much as we erroneously perhaps sometimes like to cite, plus minus data, and sometimes maybe it, just, game plus minus data. And sometimes I think it does have a little bit of an effect. I don't think that his he was minus 17. Daniel Gafford was minus 2. Daniel Gafford was much better this game. I thought he came with a lot more energy and focus and force. But I thought Derek Lively was pretty solid as well. And just sometimes Derek Lively alone cannot make all of the impact in the box score, and maybe not against a team like this, a team that is literally the best team in the NBA. But I thought at least he performed compared to his own standards, compared to the own improvements that you want him to make. I thought this was a better night for him, going up against somebody who he kind of sees as the path forward. I think he can look at Jared Allen and be like, that's a guy I'm going to be a lot like here in 8 years. That's a guy I want to be a lot like. And a lot of what Jared Allen did, even though I think Lively can be different and maybe even better in some ways, I thought a lot of what, just the very polished Jared Allen out there tonight for the best team in the league, I think that is a, ideal path for young Derek Lively.
I'm going to give you a chance to glow for a second here, because before the season, you said, as we were previewing the season, the teams that we thought, could really make some noise this year, obviously, was Boston being the defending champions. You were the one saying that, hey, this Cleveland Cavaliers team is one that you need to pay attention to going into the season. And through 34 games, 30-4 we're talking about one of the more historic starts in the history of this league through 34 games, and it feels like a balanced team offensively and defensively. They showed it in a lot of ways tonight, especially with Evan Mobley leading the charge for them.
And Kevin, you're being really kind, and I certainly did talk a lot about Cleveland early in the year. I had a good feeling about them as a team that was just going to click, but I'm pretty sure I said on the show, we could go back and check the receipts, that they're going to be 34-1, 35 games into the season. So I was actually, I was too optimistic about them. This is really something that I have to come to terms with. I am listening and I am learning, and I apologize for my error. Clearly, they're not as good as I thought they were going to be.
Well, they're still pretty damn good because they are a running juggernaut right now. In fact, we mentioned a little bit earlier, but 10-0 now against the Western Conference so far this year. Coming into tonight's game, they were beating down
I said they were going to be 12-0 against the Western Conference at this point of the season.
Well, maybe you're just
so
early.
This is really embarrassing for me.
Hey, Tim, do you know, is there any word or indication of whether Kyrie is going to be back?
That question was asked to Jason Kidd. It was the last question of the press conference. Jason Kidd looked at the person who asked it. It was not me. Actually, I don't even know who asked it. It was someone behind me. And he said maybe. And then he looked at the person who asked it a little bit longer, and he walked off the podium, the stage. So that I'm in a lot of Jason Kidd press conferences, and I have a good sense of sometimes I'm able to decode what he's saying when he says one thing and he means another thing. I think what he meant is that maybe Kyrie Irving is going to be back on Monday.
That was good, Kato. That was good.
I cannot believe I let
That's
you.
the one that got you.
Same.
I was absolutely clinging to every word.
Kato's on his game tonight. That was good. Kato.
Ridiculous.
Look at you. I don't know where to go after that because
Tim, if Kyrie, well, I'll say this: whether or not Kyrie is back on Monday, we talked about this a little bit in the last segment. They came out of halftime with Hardy and Grimes starting, not Dinwiddie. Whether it's Kyrie or whether it's no Kyrie on Monday in Memphis, who is their starting backcourt, or who is the starter if Kyrie does play, and their backcourt if he doesn't?
I mean, how do you not play Quentin Grimes? Right?
I agree.
Agreed.
I think what you're really asking me is who starts if Kyrie Irving is not available?
Yes.
Because it's obviously going to be Kyrie, and I think we would all be disappointed not to see Quentin Grimes in there and give him a chance to replicate what he was able to do tonight.
Especially with Najee,
especially
because in that case, you'll have Punch coming off the bench.
Mm-hmm.
You'll have it.
Yeah, Najee being back definitely helps. Also, Kyrie, I mean, he's sick, so we'll see how fresh he is. But in a lot of instances, the main reason that Kyrie has not been the lone initiator in these lineups is because there's an idea that he's going to get full court pressure, that he's going to see double teams, that you want another guy that you trust to initiate the offense. I'll say that Quentin Grimes looked better, playing as an initiator in this game than we've seen from Spencer Dinwiddie in probably a week. This was a guy actually getting 2 feet in the paint and making the right pass more times than not, and also scoring. But clearly, up to this point, he has not been viewed in that way, in the same way, at least, by Jason Kidd. But if Kyrie, if this illness is not so severe that, missing this game actually means he's a little bit more fresh, I don't see any reason against a Memphis team that doesn't have any, just ferocious point of attack defenders. Marcus Smart is good, but Jalen Wells, we've talked a lot, when they previously played Memphis, or we talked about Jalen Wells being their primary point of attack guy. Like that doesn't inherently scare me. They're not going to be switching everything when Zach Edey is out there. Obviously, Kyrie is going to have a chance to attack, drop coverages and the like. So I do think that Kyrie and Quentin Grimes makes a lot of sense. Out of everybody else, I mean, the starter if Kyrie's not out there would be Spencer Dinwiddie. I don't see any other way around it. I would be very surprised if that wasn't the case. But Brandon Williams, the G League's leading scorer, mind you, is the player who seemed like this was not a. I would say this game was probably more bad than good from Brandon Williams, but this seemed like a game that he could build on, and it seemed like at least something like Spencer Dinwiddie is not going out there and building on any performance. He might be good, he might be bad. Lately, it's not been amazing, and quite frankly, he's played way more than you expected him to. It's quite possible that he is just out of gas, that he has burnt himself out because the team has been playing him, in such an unexpected way. It might be as simple as that. Like, I don't always love, how Dinwiddie, goes around doing his, performing his role. But, he was a very good player for a lot of the start of the season and has, very clearly nosedived in the past couple of weeks as he has been playing consistently 30 plus minutes. So it could be as simple as that, but that's still the case that he is not playing up to what we saw earlier in the season. Brandon Williams at least gives you the option of maybe somebody that can build and grow into a role that they're going to need. They're going to need a guard that they can, rely on over this next month at more, maybe not all the time when everybody but Luka is healthy. Maybe not when Exum comes back, but neither of those things are close.
Tim, as always, we appreciate you reporting on tonight's game as well. We will look forward to talk to you on Monday as the Mavericks get ready to take on the Memphis Grizzlies. My man, appreciate your time as always. Thank you.
Bye, Tim.
Bye.
That's our Mavericks beat writer, Tim Cato. You can find him on X at Tim_Cato. Let's take our final break here on the DLLS Mavs postgame show. When we come back, we'll welcome in our national NBA insider, Mark Stein. A busy night around the association with news coming from Miami and from the Los Angeles Clippers about a debut coming tomorrow. We'll get into that and more, of course, on the Mavericks tonight. Coming up next year on the DLLS Mavs postgame show.
First, shout out to our most recent diehard subscriber signups. Shout out to Kat, to Russell, to Andrew, to Brittany, and to James. Those 5 incredible, wonderful, beautiful people just became a whole lot cooler, a whole lot more interesting whenever they signed up to become a diehard here at DLLS Sports, which is a way that you can financially support what we're doing here. All of our postgame, all of our pregame, all of our stuff on YouTube is going to be free forever. But if you want to take your support for us one step further, you can scan this QR code or click the link in the description below or go to alldls.com/diehard for less than $7 a month. You gain access to the entire website, all the paywall, that premium good written content, including we got a lot of Cowboys draft stuff coming down the pipeline.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, my God. I had an hour-long meeting
season
about the draft today. I'm going to have another hour-long meeting about the draft on Tuesday. I'm going to have another hour-long meeting about the draft on Wednesday. There's a lot of draft stuff coming down the road.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're interested in what the Cowboys are going to do at whatever pick they have and whatever, and then whatever, and then
Hopefully
whatever,
11.
then you're going to want to read what Clarence and Joe have to say. You're going to watch what Jeff and Jesse and Aisha are going to be talking about for their exclusive diehard stuff. Also, whenever you sign up, you get a free shirt. You get a discount on any other stuff you want, including hoodies, including mugs, including cups, including a whole lot more. And you get to join the DLLS Discord, where maybe we can talk about Pokemon if you want.
Or we can talk about some pro wrestling.
Or we can talk about Pokemon.
Royal Rumble's coming around the corner.
Or we can talk about Pokemon.
Or Pokemon.
You also get a physical diehard card and so much more. So shout out to everybody. Hey, whether you like or chat or subscribe or you become a diehard, hey, appreciate every single one of you for watching, for supporting in whatever way you choose what we're doing here. We're building it from the ground up. It's been a blast so far, and let's keep zooming right through 2025.
AllDLLS.com. Become a diehard member today for less than $7 a month to join our DLLS Sports family here at DLLS Sports. As we go back out to the American Airlines Center.
Sorry, he is not called in yet.
He's not called in just yet.
Him and Tim were sharing the space, so he's having to get set up right now.
Oh, he and Tim are holding space. That's so nice.
Coming up in just a moment, we'll welcome in our national NBA insider, Mark Stein, who was live at the American Airlines Center. Unfortunately, the Mavericks fall 134-122 at home. No Kyrie Irving on tonight. Quentin Grimes, though, big third quarter, scored or assisted on 28 of the 32 points in that third quarter, but not enough as Evan Mobley and the Cavaliers dominated. Evan Mobley with 34 points in the game had a spectacular game for Cleveland as they have now won 9 straight games. They now own the longest winning streak, Bobby, in the Eastern Conference. That's because the Oklahoma City Thunder overcame an early deficit and they beat the New York Knicks tonight. The Oklahoma City Thunder now have won 14 straight games. Yes, the loss to the Milwaukee Bucks in the NBA Cup final does not count because that does not count toward the regular season schedule. So 14 straight games for the Oklahoma City Thunder as they take out the New York Knicks. Also tonight in the association, how about CJ McCollum for the New Orleans Pelicans? He drops 50 in a win for the Pelicans over the Washington Wizards. And Victor Wembanyama and Nikola Jokic in a duel for the ages. The Spurs come out with the road win tonight on the road over the Denver Nuggets. So the Spurs continuing their surprising start to the season as they get a win in what was a terrific game between those two teams. And with that, Tanner's like, no, we're not bringing him in just yet. I thought I saw him pop
I got
up.
a Grimes stat.
You got a Grimes stat?
Yeah, so this season, based on number of dribbles per touch, right? Whenever Quentin Grimes takes one dribble before shooting 64%. Whenever he takes two dribbles before shooting 63%. Whenever he takes 7 or more dribbles, he's shooting 52.5%. Generally, like the more dribbles you take, the less efficient you're going to be. But his effective field goal percentage on one dribble, 78. His effective field goal percentage on 2, 73. On 3 to 6, 46, which is kind of bad. But on 7+ dribbles, it's 53%, which, dude, that's really good. That's really good. He's been a really, really good off-the-dribble shooter this year, whether that's face-up in the mid-range. He's even done some step-backs, some sidestep threes, or going to the rim. He's been able to create for himself quite a bit, and that's really important because, again, like I've said this probably 1,000 times in my life, maybe more, when talking about the Luka era Mavs. There's all these little tiny cracks and crevices in the defense, and sometimes they blow them wide open. Sometimes there's a massive cracks in the defense. Sometimes they're only little teensy-weensy, right, whenever Luka and Kyrie are out there, and you have that long to exploit it before the advantage is gone. And Grimes seems to be the kind of player that can really exploit those. Najee Marshall, too. PJ, whenever he's feeling really good, he can. And so that's been good to see. It's been really good to see.
As we continue here on the DLLS Mavs postgame show, let's go out to the American Airlines Center and bring in our National NBA Insider. You can find him on X at the Steinline. He, of course, is the dapper Mark Stein. Mark, what's going on?
Gents, how are we?
Not too bad.
I mean, yeah, for what we felt like was going to be the outcome of tonight's game. I took the Bobby Carella school of how to deal with a potential blowout loss, and I had a quiet dinner before the game and just chilled out before tonight's basketball game. And here we are now talking to you before we end our post-game show. And a busy night in the association. We're going to get to the drama that's unfolding in Miami here in just a moment. But your thoughts quickly on tonight's game. Quentin Grimes, we had just been talking about, had a big third quarter for the Mavericks tonight. Your thoughts on tonight's game?
I got to be honest, guys. This was my first look at Cleveland, and I had a feeling that the Mavs were going to be pretty shorthanded tonight. I was hearing whispers that they were going to be well shy of full strength. So really my focus was on the other side of the ball because the Cavs are 30-4. They came in here on a 72 win pace. And like I said, it was my first chance to see them in person this season. And they looked quite impressive. I mean, I was a skeptic. I thought their main 4 guys, they were going to have to break it up. I thought this was the season that we would probably see them trade one of those 4 guys. And it was really interesting because Jared Allen's contract extension in the summer was done just in the window that makes him trade eligible this season. If you remember, Lowry Markkanen waited until after August 6th to do his extension in Utah, so the Jazz can't trade him this season. But Jared Allen's deal was right before August 6th. And so it did allow for making him trade eligible during the season. And I thought, okay, this is the year that they're going to break these guys up. And no, I mean, Kenny Atkinson has made such a huge difference as this team's coach. And Mobley and Garland have played better than ever in Cleveland. We saw Mobley today. I mean, the guy was just Defensive Player of the Month, and today he was stepping out and hitting threes like it was nothing. and they just have so much going for them. And they've increased their three-point volume every month. And now you got Donovan Mitchell's minutes down, the least he's ever played. It's only going to keep him fresher for the postseason. So they have a lot of things going for them. Very impressive.
And they definitely showed it tonight against the Dallas Mavericks. Let's start to take a look around the rest of the league. Some news starting to unfold as we get into the weekend. Apparently, Kawhi Leonard is set to make his debut tomorrow against the Atlanta Hawks. Of course, he's been dealing with knee injury, so big news there for the Los Angeles Clippers. They're looking to get healthy. But on the other coast, some real drama unfolding when it comes to Jimmy Butler and the Miami Heat. Ira Winderman, who, of course, longtime beat writer in Miami covering the team. The team had made a statement earlier this evening saying, quote, "We have suspended Jimmy Butler for 7 games for multiple instances of conduct detrimental to the team over the course of the season, and particularly the last several weeks. Through his actions and statements, he has shown he no longer wants to be part of this team. Jimmy Butler and his representative, have indicated that they wish to be traded. Therefore, we will listen to offers," to which the NBAPA has responded, and they are going to file a grievance on behalf of Jimmy Butler, contesting the excessiveness, they believe, of this particular suspension. Really a lot of drama right now between Pat Riley, this organization, and a superstar that's led them to 2 NBA finals. What the hell is going on in Miami right now?
Let me first give a shout out to my dear friend Chris Haynes, who broke that news about Kawhi's scheduled comeback tomorrow. Chris and I, of course, did a podcast, This League Uncut, for 2 seasons, and he's a really good friend of mine. So shout out to Mr. Haynes for the scoopage on that one. But yeah, look, the Miami situation is fascinating, and it's really just in the last week, the steps, the response from each side. It was the day after Christmas that Pat Riley came out with a very pointed statement and said, normally we don't address this kind of stuff, but it's become a distraction to our team. We are not trading Jimmy Butler. A very strong on-the-record statement from Pat Riley. The question immediately became, how would Jimmy Butler respond to that statement? Would he just start playing again with Miami and just try to be business as usual? Or would there be some resistance from Jimmy Butler? And we obviously got our answer last night, second half of a back-to-back. The Heat lose listlessly again, and Jimmy Butler was asked, can you recapture your joy as a member of the Heat? And he said, probably not. I mean, that was a pretty strong public statement on his behalf. And now the next day, the Heat just, you don't see teams issue 7-game suspensions. This is a team-issued suspension. So it just kind of shows you, like, Miami is not backing down. I mean, they put it all out in the open now. They've acknowledged that Jimmy Butler wants a trade, but that doesn't necessarily mean that Miami is just going to make the first trade they can to resolve this. And that's why this is going to be such a unique situation to monitor, because you can make a really strong case that Miami is better off under any circumstances, whether they trade Jimmy Butler or let him walk in free agency. You can make the case they're better off waiting until the offseason no matter what. And if the Heat stick to that stance to wait until the offseason, what happens when this 7-game suspension is over? A lot of people are jumping to the conclusion that Jimmy Butler has played his last game in Miami, but it's not that simple because of the player participation policy. The new player participation policy says that teams are not allowed. We used to see in the past when a team and a player hit an impasse like this, that the team and the player would just basically leave the team and go wait for a trade. With the player participation policy, that is not supposed to happen anymore. but there is like a special circumstances clause in that player participation policy. So it's going to be really interesting to see if this 7-game suspension is served, where the parties are, because there's not going to be a trade that quick. There's just, when you talk to people around the league, there is no easy deal for Miami to make with Jimmy Butler. And so if this 7-game suspension is served and there is no trade, what happens next? Does Miami try, and look, we've seen it with the Clippers. PJ Tucker has been away from the Clippers, and that was by mutual consent, and the league has okayed that one. But by the letter of this new player participation policy, a player is not supposed to be sent away from his team to wait for a trade. And again, Miami, the talk for weeks, really for months, has been Jimmy Butler possesses this player option for next season at $52 million and change. And all the talk has been that Jimmy Butler's intentions are to bypass that player option and go to free agency in the summer. If he sticks to that plan, Miami would realize a lot of financial flexibility by just letting Jimmy Butler walk. And the Heat might deem that more attractive than making a trade and taking back contracts that they don't want. So this thing still has many, many chapters to play out. I know I just went through a ton there. It's a long-winded answer, but this thing has that many chapters. There is just a ton going on here, and it's not like we're on the brink of a resolution.
Yeah, Mark,
before we let Bobby answer, we appreciate all of you joining us here for our television audience here on the DLLS Mavs postgame show. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe to DLLS Sports on the way out the door, and to do the same for our podcast as well. And visit alldlls.com to become a diehard member today. As we continue here on our YouTube show here on DLLS Mavs on our postgame show, we're talking with our national NBA insider, Mark Stein, as we detail the saga that's happening in Miami with Jimmy Butler and what's next potentially between him and the team.
It's a pretty messy situation, Mark, because Jimmy Butler obviously is a great player, but he's getting up there in age. He may or may not be a free agent. And if he becomes a free agent, he's going to want a huge, huge contract, which for a guy his age is obviously going to be pretty complicated to do. And right now, most of the really, really good teams that are going for it in the league that would trade for a guy like that are above the first apron or maybe into the second apron. And so it's almost impossible to even put together a trade. Like the Mavs have more financial flexibility, for example, than a lot of their competitors in the West right now. And it's almost impossible for them to put a trade together for Jimmy, let alone a team like Denver or Phoenix,
maybe Golden State.
Yeah, Golden State. I mean, there's a lot of moving pieces there. And so it's almost like, it would kind of be it'd be a big headache to just make the math work, let alone assume the risk of an aging player on an potentially expiring contract who has had, let's be honest, a lot of toxic, unceremonious exits from past teams. Like, it's not like this is a new situation with him. So I'm just trying to envision like the type of team that would want to trade for Jimmy right now.
Yeah, and that's why I think you've seen Miami take these hardline stances, because if Jimmy Butler decides to bypass the player option and become a free agent in the summer, the only team out there projected to have max cap space as we speak is Brooklyn. And Brooklyn, by all accounts, is just starting a rebuild. And the thought of Brooklyn going after a 30-something free agent, it just doesn't fit with what the Nets are looking to do. So Miami is looking at the landscape saying, Jimmy Butler doesn't really have anywhere to go in free agency. He's going to need a sign and trade to go somewhere else. So he's going to need our help. And again, then there's the scenario where Miami is thinking, do we emulate the Clippers and let Jimmy Butler walk like the Clippers did with Paul George? And the Clippers' argument was, okay, we lost Paul George for nothing, which is supposed to be an absolute sin in the NBA. But the Clippers are looking at they're going to get to financial flexibility much faster. And what they decided to do was to make short-term moves, bring in a bunch of really good defenders, including our old friend Derek Jones Jr., and try to keep the team at a good level now, but knowing that by letting Paul George go, they will get to financial flexibility faster to take a big swing in the near-term future. Miami could have that opportunity as soon as this summer if Jimmy Butler indeed bypasses that $52 million player option. Now, something Miami has to account for is what happens if we get to June 29th, which is the deadline for Butler to make his decision. And what if Butler says, you know what, I'm actually going to opt in now to that $52 million. Again, all the messaging up till now has been that he doesn't want to do that, but that's where Butler gets back some leverage. What if he surprises Miami and decides to stay on that contract? But as far as the trade market, the Corellustrator has read this exactly right. The teams that are closest to title contention, it's really, really hard in general to trade for Jimmy Butler. Houston's a team that could do it, but the messaging out of Houston has been consistent, again, not just weeks, for months. The Rockets, A, do not want to make an in-season trade this season. And B, when the Rockets take their next big swing, they want to do it for someone who's closer to the age timeline of all these first-round picks that they have on this roster who are all blossoming and developing nicely. So Houston is adamant that they're not going to be a Jimmy Butler team. I've reported from the start, the Mavericks, even though Jimmy Butler has interest in coming to Dallas, the Mavericks are not going to make a trade pitch for Jimmy Butler. I think of the teams mentioned, Phoenix gets mentioned a lot, but Miami's not going to do a deal with Phoenix. The best Phoenix can offer for Jimmy Butler is Bradley Beal and a 2031 first and 3 seconds. The Miami Heat are not taking Bradley Beal's contract back. Has $110 million on it left after this season. The only way the Suns could get Jimmy Butler is if there's a third team willing to take on Bradley Beal, and Bradley Beal would have to waive his no trade clause in that case. So Phoenix is extremely unlikely.
Yeah, I'll stop you there. That ain't happening.
There's
That's not
no
gonna happen.
way in hell that happens.
Mark, you know Pat Riley better than I do, but I can't imagine Pat Riley gives a flying F about a 2031 first round pick either.
Yeah, that's the thing. If they just part ways this summer, if Jimmy indeed says, you know what, I'm passing the player option and I'm going to free agency, the Heat gain back all kinds of flexibility to make moves. And the Heat have shown historically that they, just with a hint of flexibility, they can do damage. I mean, I will never forget the summer of 2019 when they didn't even have $5 million in cap space and found a way to do a sign and trade to get Jimmy Butler out of Philadelphia and to Miami. And like you said, Jimmy Butler has been a sensational player for the Heat. 2 trips to the finals and 1 shot away from a third. So the way this is ending, it looked like Jimmy Butler had found a home in Miami. He'd found an organization that really understood him and was able to get the best out of him. So to see it unravel with the speed we've seen in the last week, it is wild. And like I said, I think it's just starting. Like it would shock people if this just led to some sudden Heat trade. The Heat are not just going to yield to the players' wishes here.
And Jimmy Butler, by the way, with this 7-game suspension, is lighting $2.35 million on fire.
There's something else I did want to throw in there because you mentioned the grievance. And look, the NBPA says it's going to support Jimmy Butler's grievance, which obviously that mechanism is there. But in truth, what typically happens in these cases, it's only to address the financial part. It's to try to make sure that Jimmy Butler gets back some of that money. Because you're right, if he were to serve this 7-game suspension, at its worst, it costs him more than $2.3 million. So the grievance is really going to be to get as much of that money back as possible. It's not going to shorten the suspension any. Excuse me. These grievance processes, they're very time consuming, and the 7 games are going to elapse way before they even get to the grievance process. So the grievance part of this is really only to deal with the financial side of it. Jimmy Butler is going to be out for at least the next 7 games, and then we stay tuned to see what happens next.
Oh boy, the South Beach drama unfolding when it comes to Jimmy Butler, him being suspended by the team for 7 games for conduct detrimental to the team, could be losing up to $2.35 million. Pat Riley, that's not the guy you want to play chicken with, because he will sit there and play with you all you want. You want to play games with Pat Riley, Riles will sit there and play with you in your face until somebody blinks, and usually it's not necessarily him. Mark, before we let you go, any other thoughts around the league and what was kind of a wild night? We mentioned a little bit earlier, Oklahoma City extends its win streak to 14 games, ending the Knicks' 9-game run. CJ McCollum drops 50 in a win for the Pelicans. Your buddy Chris Haynes reporting that Kawhi Leonard is set to make his season debut. We had a duel in Denver between Victor Wembanyama and Nikola Jokic, where the Spurs get an impressive road win against Denver. Really interesting and fun night in the association on this Friday night, the first one in January.
Yeah, my thoughts are that I think not being able to see any of that game in Denver means I missed out on something. Just hearing the buzz about that Wemby Jokic duel, like it's even though I'm in Dallas, that chatter is definitely reaching me tonight. So I can't wait to kind of dig into that one and see what I missed.
Well, Mark, as always, we appreciate your reporting on this night. We will talk to you on Monday as the Mavericks look to try to break this losing streak as they take on the Memphis Grizzlies on the road, man. We appreciate your time as always. Thank you.
My regards to everyone in chat who I didn't get to interact with tonight, but we will rectify that on Monday night.
We will do so. Appreciate the time as always.
Bye, Mark.
There he goes, our National NBA Insider, Mark Stein.
Dude, we get a Saturday and a Sunday off. How about that?
Let's
go.
Let's do a quick check-in on the Western Conference standings before we get out of here. With the Mavericks lost tonight, they now have dropped to the 6th spot in the Western Conference. And right now, your top 6 in the West are as follows. The Thunder, as we mentioned, winning 14 straight games. Memphis in 2nd. Houston in 3rd. Denver, even with their loss tonight, they are 4th in the West. The Lakers in 5th right now as far as that's concerned, and the Mavericks dropping to 6th. Interesting enough, we mentioned Kawhi Leonard coming back for the Clippers. They're in the 7th spot right now at 19 and 15. Spurs, with their win tonight, they've won 2 straight. They moved to 18 and 16. They're 8th. Golden State in 9th, and Minnesota now is in 10th at 17 and 16. Woo. So interesting times in the Western Conference right now, given what's happened, but some interesting wrinkles also happening with some guys coming back as well. Any final thoughts before we get out of here? You all good? All right.
Expectations are the thief of joy. The Mavs are really banged up. If you expect anything other than nights like this, you're going to have a bad time. We just got to grin and bear it, man. We're eating a lot of vegetables. Let's use this opportunity to catch up with our diets, to catch up on hydration, to catch up on our sleep. Let's spend time with the people who matter most to us, and let's get ready for the playoff push. Hopefully early in February, if not, hopefully at some point. Hopefully it happens, and we'll be ready for it. That's all I can tell you.
We'll be back on Monday for our DLLS Mavs pregame show. The Mavericks tip off with the Memphis Grizzlies on Monday at 7 p.m., which means our pregame show will begin at 6:30 right here.
Sorry, John Anderson swooping in the chat right at the very end. Producer John, it's the weekend. Go have fun.
What did he say? Big C's dub tonight, fellas.
Yeah, we're out of time. We don't have time to talk about it. So.
Get out of here, John.
Sorry, John.
Oh, sorry. Oh, I'm hearing. Yeah, we have to go. The Boston Celtics are bad. We have to go. The
tune
show's
into our
over.
Stars podcast. The Stars podcast is
no,
amazing.
don't. Just kidding. No,
please
Dude,
tune in to our Stars podcast. We'll be back on Monday at 6:30 p.m. for our DLLS Mavs pregame show. Again, tip-off at 7 p.m. between the Mavericks and the Memphis Grizzlies. For our National NBA Insider, Mark Stein, our Mavericks beat writer, Tim Cato, that's our Mavericks analyst, Bobby Krella. I'm your host, Kevin Gray. Really appreciate you joining us here on the DLLS Mavs postgame show. Thanks to Tanner, by the way, for making us look and sound good, as always. Appreciate you, Tanner, as always, here. We'll talk to you on Monday here on DLLS Sports. Y'all be good. Have a good weekend. Peace.
We all silly like the mayor.